Hello, and thank you very much for your time today. I am very excited to share with you the consumer marketing results from 2021 for the American Wool Council. Today, we're going to look at where this program started in 2019, where it's been, and where it goes next. But first, my name is Corey Hayes. I'm the president at Get Back Your Dog, and we're a strategic communications firm that helps organizations improve reach and relevance around the world. Before we get too far into things, we need to thank Rita and Krista because their continued partnership and vision for the American Wool Council has really allowed this program to be so successful. Our team of writers, designers, photographers, and videographers is incredibly proud of the work it does for the American Wool Council. Together, we are growing international market share, driving consumer education, increasing trade opportunities, and strengthening industry partnerships for this organization and for everyone it represents. And that's something we all feel very strongly about. As Rita and Krista have been on this journey of strengthening global brand presence for American Wool Council for quite some time now, in 2019, they said, hey, we need to find a way to be more cost effective, to have better reach, and to do a more thorough job of promoting the usage of American wool around the world for trade and consumer audiences. They had a strong digital footprint, they had a great brand foundation, and they wanted something that would demonstrate value and build trust with potential audiences. So we developed together a strategy of using social media to raise awareness of the American Wool Council message. The reason we chose social media is because that is A, where the most people are, and B, it allows us to cost effectively get that message into the hands of those folks or in front of their eyeballs. And then C, it allows us to track everything. So we can use that to grow and understand what works, what doesn't, and shape behavior or sculpt it as we go on. So we use those three pieces to then say, okay, how can we further engagement and drive consideration on the American Wool Council website? This program started out in a crawl phase. It had to start out slow in the foundation as we were building, and we wanted to take what we learned and then continue to build up and out. So we had an emphasis on doing small things that might have big results. When things had big results, we would double down on them. When they didn't have big results, we would try to understand why, and we would either move them aside and move on to something else or tweak the program a little bit until it could get the result we were looking for. We had a lot of theories on what audiences wanted. We proved those theories out through established goals, and then that allowed us in 2020 and 2021 to start to walk a little bit faster. I would say now we're probably walking at what some might call a brisk pace as we go into 2022. We have defined monthly calendars that are all based on learnings and analytics and trends. We have strengthened relationships with brands and teams and partners from across industries. And we're running regular campaigns and programs with American Wool Council content. This is all very exciting, and we couldn't have done it without all of you. Social media awareness and social media presence takes a village. We have been asking for participation, and you all have been doing it in droves. And we continue to need that support as we push the American Wool Council message out further and further. As we drive things like the importance of land management and important topics to this organization, we need the help of state organizations, ranchers, brands, suppliers, and shearers that have already contributed or haven't yet contributed to this. Because part of sharing the message is that when you share the American Wool Council message one time, it's 5 to 6 times more likely to be seen by 5 to 6 more audiences down the road. So that gives us some organic reach that we can't get without your help. So thank you for the help you've given us the last 3 years, and we look forward to your continued partnership going further. This organization has had some astounding return on this program. We have reached international markets, both large and small around the world. When we want to target them, we can. We know what works, and we know how to land. The organization has opened new trade accounts and has increased partnerships with brands and with large and small suppliers in domestically and internationally. In 2019, when we set out on this journey, we wanted to prove that this model would work. So with a relatively low investment, we went in and said, okay, let's test a couple of ideas. Those ideas turned into 2 times the amount of website traffic coming from social media from the previous year, and 92% new visitors to the American Wool Council website. We were also able to drive 115% increase to the shop page on the American Wool Council website. That proved out, okay, we have something that has some grip here, and we are going to be able to put some traction into the tires. Now let's put some power to the engine. So what we did in 2020 was we were able to get 6.2 million eyeballs on American Wool Council content. We were able to make that content more relevant than we were the year before because we had more knowledge and background. That gave us an increase in awareness, which was a lift of 59% followers. So we increased our follower base, the people that see our message on a weekly basis, by almost 60%. We drove a ton more people to the website, and those people stayed on the website longer. So they were on the website a third longer than they had ever been before. So now we're starting to see a full picture of how everything could work. And in 2021, we doubled down on all of that and set some very ambitious goals. We exceeded those goals with an increase of followers of 23% on top of what we have done the 2 years previous, engagement of 4.7%, which I'll talk about in a second, and an increase in website traffic of an additional 54% over 2020. So this is now, the foundation that we had is now starting to grow, and the tower is starting to get bigger. Engagement is one of the most important metrics we can look at in social media. It's how many times somebody likes, shares, comments on, adds an emoji to a piece of content that we have. It means that they are reacting to the message that we're putting out into the world. Nonprofits in general, the benchmark for nonprofit engagement is 0.69%. The benchmark for consumer content is 1 to 1.5%. If a brand that is consumer driven is 1.5 to 2.5% engagement, they're considered to be doing exceptionally well. When we see an engagement number of 4.7% across our channels in social media, that is an absolute home run. It's 135% growth over 2020, which was a great number, and we are far outpacing any industry standard that is out there. When we look at a trailing 3 years, we've put the American Wool Council content in front of 16.2 million eyeballs domestically and internationally. We have grown our follower base to 35,362 followers, which is a 380% lift over 2019. And we have an average engagement of 3.6% on our content. That is 6 times 0.69%, which is the industry average for nonprofits. As we've done all of this, we're very analytical and driven by the analytics of our work. So we have a couple of major lessons that are always fueling the next generation, and this is what we're taking out of 2021 and into 2022. The more unexpected the message, the better the result. So when we put people in a position to learn something, they tend to go deeper into that content. And when we can get them deeper into that content, we can get more engagements and we can get them to use it in different ways. So if we get somebody who's interested in, let's say, gardening and why you might use wool in your garden, we can start to introduce video, and we can start to introduce articles, and we can start to use what somebody else might be talking about in terms of wool or in terms of gardening. And maybe it doesn't have anything to do with wool at all, but we're just talking about gardening now. And we can start to bring our target audiences a little bit closer to us. And then we can share more of our intended message on top of that. Number 2 is that the American Wool Council has a highly engaged audience, and we need to keep them engaged. So we're always looking at ways to curate content. We're always looking to stay engaged in current affairs. We're looking at what others are doing, and we're saying, okay, how can we build on what others are doing? Where's their shared value in what they have and what we want to say, and how can we bring those messages together? So we take content many times of what else is happening around the world. We layer the American Wool Council message on top of it, and then we deliver it to our audience, and we find that increases engagement. As great as that is, the best content that we put out is created by the American Wool Council. It's authentic, we control it, and it tends to go further. We know more about our intended audiences than those we're sharing or curating content from. So we tend to be able to drive a little bit deeper on an emotional level and tend to get a better engagement results when we can create our own American Wool Council content. And fourth, we've actually created part of the creative brief now is how do we maximize the value of every piece of content we create? So if we're putting out a video that's a minute long, we want to look at how we can take that minute long video and find little pieces of it to potentially make smaller videos that we can use. Or how could we use that video on the website for an article? Or how could we use it in a photography post? Or how could we use it in a content only post? How can we maximize the value of every piece of content that we're creating so that we have longevity and breadth and we can prove a better return on investment for the content that's going into the market? That's proved to be very successful. And it's something that we will continue, that's a big lesson that we will continue to carry forward. Social media is a little bit like ranching. It's the world of always on. 24/7, 365, American Wool Council's presence is always on in social media. It's important to be involved. We have to act quickly. We participate in every opportunity. And we now know when things are, what is most likely to be relevant, how we might want to act on things, and how we want to participate in certain conversations and communities. So we're able to take these the knowledge and the lessons that we have and deploy them rather quickly as things are happening, because things also come and go in social media. There are 5 categories of top performing content that will continue to probably prove fruitful for us in the next few years. 1 is the military. 2 is current events. When we can participate in something that's happening around the world like COVID, and we can add maybe a little bit of levity to it, or we can talk about a serious subject or topic, it allows us to share in what others are dealing with, and we tend to get really good engagement or feedback from our audience. Again, we're bringing the audience a little bit closer to us, and it allows us to then share important messages later on that we may want to talk about, like land management or animal care. Wool adjacent is when we can talk about something that isn't necessarily about the finished product of wool. It's something that maybe where wool could be used, like a bike event or a bike trail. And we can layer in, hey, and wool's great for this event for these reasons. But we're talking about the bike event, or we're talking about the bike trail, or we're talking about something that somebody could do with their children or with the next generation of family, and how wool is part of that process. That's something that individuals tend to gravitate towards. Wool unexpected. When we can teach somebody something they don't know, we tend to get a very loyal audience member. We find that they share that content exponentially more than other pieces of content because they want the others in their network to know that they're on the cutting edge of something. So we love putting out wool unexpected content. We like teasing out new ideas. And when we get somebody to share a piece of content with us, again, it goes from one person to their whole network. And if a couple of people pick it up there, it goes to their whole network. And if a couple people pick it up there, it goes to their whole network. And we've had to do very little for the return of the expansion of that and the impression of that content. The last one is brand partnerships. These are critical to our success and to our growth. Domestically, we're working with brands who are using American Wool, and we have a shared voice. We have a shared, we obviously have a shared goal of improving the consumer market for those products. So when we can partner and we can start to curate content from them and they can curate content from us, we can give them a platform now that we couldn't give them before. We have 35,000 people that American Wool brands that use American Wool can tap into. They can leverage that. They can now share their voice with it, and we're providing value to them, which then provides value back to the industry. Stepping up another level on that, in 2021, we had relatively the same number of posts we did in 2020. But on those posts, we saw 135% more engagement. What that means is we know more, and our learnings and our lessons have helped us grow into more effective content. What we're showing here are 3 posts. On the left, we see a number of sheep in a field. Somebody put out feed in the shape of a heart and then let the sheep go, and the sheep all ran to the feed and made this heart. That video was a #1 share post for us on Instagram in 2021. In the middle, we have a post about the American Wool being at the 2021 Met Gala. This was not only big on Facebook, it was actually massive on Twitter and Instagram too. On Facebook, it was #1 for engagement and shares by a far way. And on Twitter and Instagram, it was top in various categories of things that we measure and track in engagement. This is something that was wool unexpected. It was a current affair, and it allowed people to dive a little bit deeper into the content in a world and place in which they weren't expecting. It's also a place where there was a lot of chatter happening around the world. Traditional media was looking at this. So it gave us a little bit more exposure, which allowed us to push this message further. And then on Twitter, our #2 links clicked article was how the US Navy is now using wool in the submarine sweater. Something we're all very proud of, military driven, USA proud, and it went a long way in that platform. Of all the content we put out in 2021, the best performing in social media was by far video. We had 835,886 views of video on the American Wool Council pages, which was a 400% increase over 2020. Those videos had over 7,000 engagements and over 200,000 minutes of video watched, which was a 370% lift over the year previous. When we started to see this trend early in the year, we knew it was something we were going to be able to double down on. And we proved that we could tackle sensitive subjects or one sensitive subjects with intentional storytelling and a proactive management of the message. What you see in the middle that had over 800 shares is a video of shearing. And we showed how the American ranching industry actually cares for and puts animal care at the forefront of everything it does. We were able to take on some of the naysayers by putting this out there and showing how gentle and appropriate it is to shear sheep. On the left, we have Dan the Wool Man out on the road looking for the best kind of wool in America. This video was made by the American Wool Council with access and partnership from Pendleton. And as a result, they shared it in all of their social media channels and played it in every Pendleton retail store across the nation. Neither of those results are indicated on the previous page of results. So the video views and reach that we actually had from some of this content, the way we were able to demonstrate return is actually much higher. And then last but definitely not least, the first of our Unrivaled series is the video of Julie Hansmeyer, which has lifetime views of over 180,000 on the American Wool Council social media channels. This video is a great demonstration of American pride, ranching, and animal care, and the work and grit that goes into getting wool to the end consumer. All of these results are phenomenal. When we give our audience an opportunity to go deep on something, it helps us move people from social media to the website for further consideration. So what we're doing is we're using social media to tease out ideas, and then we link the audience member or viewer back to the website to a story or a piece of content that allows them to drive deeper. So we're creating these longer format blog stories, which was really accelerated in early 2021 when we started to see the results. And we're using social media to tease out the idea and then drive people to the site to find out about this content. Then they can go into exploring more about the American Wool Council. They can dive directly into shopping. And that's how we start to see some of the incredible growth that we're getting on the website and in the shop page. So year over year of 2021 over 2020, we had a 54% increase in website page views. We had over 90% new visitors to the site, and 72% of all website traffic was coming from direct or social media. What that means is there's now a lot more awareness of the American Wool Council out in the world, and we're driving an effective message in all of our markets that's leading back to the website for further consideration. So what we know about that is when we publish these stories on the site, we call this evergreen content. It's something that lives on. It lives in the blog, and it lives on in that space for forever. We, on a social media standpoint, can then grow different stories off of that evergreen content. So the Spotlight series is something we introduced last year where we are shining a light on something great that's happening in the industry. What we can do then is on social media, we can start to target different audiences with slightly different messages about why they may want to read this content, which allows us to funnel various groups at various times back to the content we want them to see, which ultimately should lead them into the places we want on the website. One of the greatest all-time pieces of content is the American Wool Holiday Gift Guide. We're going into our third year of this. Every year it gets better. We continue to grow on it. The results get better. It's up for roughly a month before the holidays. And we know exactly what buttons to push and how to push them with our audience and how to drive them back to the website so that they can find out how to purchase these products. In 2022, and as we move forward, we are going to forecast more moderate growth on our benchmark metrics. We have seen almost straight up growth from awareness and engagement and moving people to the website. And it's important that we look at more moderate growth as we move forward. The numbers have been exceptional. We will continue to drive great results to drive over the top engagement, but they may not be able to stay at the 4.7 level forever. As we look at more probably high threes, what we're going to be looking to do is maximize our existing assets, edit from the existing content library. We want to develop more articles and own content because we know that that is what fuels people coming to the site and gives us our best return. And that's how we keep it fresh for our audiences. And then we want to improve the brand experience. So we always want to look at how we can improve the flow inside of social media or improve the conversation, sculpt that inside of social media, and then flow people to the right place in the website and drive new content through each of those channels that might best represent what somebody's trying to do at that stage of the process that they're in their engagement and consideration. If you don't already, we ask that you please find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Experience Wool. Engage with us, post, tag us, share our content, comment on it, like it, because when you do that, your network sees it. And when your network sees it and they like something, then their network sees it. And we start to see the exponential growth that we want to continue to have. Also, post, tell the world what you're doing. We're listening. We're always out looking for great new content that we can curate. Tag us, use the hashtag #ExperienceWool, and we will be watching out for it, and we will be monitoring and looking for ways that we can leverage it. You can always also direct message us. That's a great way for us to have a conversation. If you have a question about how you could support a piece of content or content that we're looking for, always feel free to direct message us in the social media channels and we can answer those questions. American Wool Council is in a great place. It has a very bright future. We appreciate it, you letting us be a part of this. Again, a huge thanks to Rita and Krista for their partnership. They're doing just such an amazing job with this program and where this goes next. We are really honored to be a part of it. So thank you to all of you. If you have any questions about this program, please reach out to Krista. She's happy to answer them. And have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your convention.